Hello, welcome to Season 7 of The Horrific Podcast. We're two friends who live in different places but share a love for scary movies. In each episode, we both watch the same movie on our own and then record a conversation about what we liked, what we hated, if we were scared, and maybe even some larger truths about why people watch horror movies in the first place. This season, our theme is the current state of horror. We'll be watching 20 or so movies from the last couple of years, reviewing them like normal, and then also talking about some of the larger trends we see. If you want to see the list and follow along, check out our website at thehorrific.com. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the episode. Do you feel like the Conjuring universe movies have kind of gotten out of hand a little bit?
I feel like movies in general are getting out of hand, Daniel.
I just mean, how are there more Annabelle movies than Conjuring movies?
Well, you know what they say, that Annabelle franchise is the Avengers of the Conjuring universe.
I actually would believe that based on the amount of money it's made, which is kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
Because that's probably like one of the less interesting characters for me.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just because there have been more movies about it, so there's less mystery. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely ties into what we kind of talked about last week with Child's Play, where it's like, you know, these people are making money off these movies. And
yeah.
maybe we just need to get on board with it.
Yeah.
And start making movies like that. But
yeah.
it does, like, I mean, the thing is like, they have a cool filming style and stuff, and it's like, put that to a new story. Like, put that to another one of the items in the room.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, and we'll get into this more later, but I kind of wondered if that's what this one was a little bit of a setup for.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway. So this is like 7 movies in. It's the most recent one in the series, and I guess you kind of got to be like, well, what's left at this point?
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought it was interesting that they shifted and did it from the perspective of the Warrens' daughter. Right. So it's like, what would it be like to be a child of the Warrens and to have to go to school and deal with society and reading newspapers about your parents being phonies and all of that. And in true movie fashion, you know, the daughter was supposed to be very young, but she was played by a 14-year-old. The babysitter and her friend were supposed to be in high school, but they were in their mid-20s. So it really was just setting up kind of a lot of Hollywood tradition.
Right.
But one thing I did like about it was that you got to see a lot more of the stuff in the Warrens' collection. And I think we've kind of all wanted that from the beginning.
Yeah, I just want an explanation of what they got going on. That's it. I don't want to audit what they got.
Yeah.
I kind of do now.
Yeah. But what I'm hoping is that, you know, some of those things that you saw in the room or in the house, like as the movie went on and the hauntings intensified, are things that they'll get their own movies around in the future. Because I think there were some interesting things introduced, like that suit of the samurai armor and then that weird, like, blue demon with the horns. I'd go watch those movies.
Daniel.
I'm sorry. I would stay home responsibly away from people and stream those movies.
Okay, there you go.
For a reasonable price, eating my own subpar non-movie theater popcorn because that's what my life has become.
It's worse. We're both in a terrible mood just because we haven't got our fix of movie theater popcorn.
In months.
Yeah.
I hate it.
I feel like
and the thing is, that's a good thing that you brought up, because I've found myself feeling very negative towards most movies I've watched recently.
Yep.
And that's just why. I was acclimated. My expectations were acclimated to movie popcorn plus movie. And now without that little boost, the whole experience just seems worse.
Well, yeah. And, you know, I couldn't tell you how many times I've heard, or I've said it, or heard you say of, movies suck, but at least I got popcorn out of it.
Oh, yeah.
That's our saying.
No, for sure. Yeah.
That's our tagline of this podcast. But we haven't had it. But the cool thing about this movie is what you'll say in the intro of where it's available at.
That is true. And I'll get to that. In 2019, Warner Brothers Pictures brought us Annabelle Comes Home, which is the 7th installment in the Conjuring universe of movies. The film was written and directed by Gary Dauberman and has Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmigeddon reprising their roles as Ed and Lorraine Warren. In this movie, though, Ed and Lorraine are minor characters as they are gone for most of the story, while a number of spirits torment their daughter, her babysitter, and her babysitter's friend who oversteps boundaries on a regular basis. This movie was made on a budget of around $30 million and brought in over, wait for it, $230 million at the box office, proving yet again that just about anything in the Conjuring series absolutely prints money. This movie can currently be streamed on HBO free if you're already subscribed.
Yeah. Which is like kind of hard to not have an HBO subscription nowadays. But that's what I was saying is kind of cool is, you know, some of these movies are free that we've been watching. Or I say free, you know, available on monthly subscription.
Extra
yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, so if we don't have to go to the theater, at least we can use that money that you would pay on a ticket for a Prime or HBO monthly schedule and watch your movies.
Without popcorn, so.
Yeah, depressed. So with this movie actually has Father Gordon in it. He has a quick appearance. He's the one who, I guess you would say, blesses the little cage that Annabelle's put in.
Yeah.
If he's blessing Annabelle or whatever he's doing. But he is the guy from the Conjuring movies. He's the father from the Conjuring movies, where he's more of like a spiritual advisor or like a middleman for communications within the Vatican.
To the Warrens,
yeah. Like more of a, like, not an exorcist, but like their advisor, which I thought was interesting. It's kind of all tying together, as it should. So Annabelle Comes Home opens with the Warrens quite literally bringing the cursed doll home.
What could possibly go wrong?
That's the fact. No. After they finish solving its case, which was the last Annabelle movie. The Warrens tell their clients that it may be best to take the doll away from their home, which serves as the catalyst for the movie. This prologue is basically the epilogue to the Warrens' introductory case in The Conjuring, where they're shown explaining to some tenants that the doll isn't possessed. The scene also serves as the most important bit of exposition, where it's revealed that the doll is a conduit for demons. Now, the fact that I said in one of the Annabelle movies, I think that we've talked about, or maybe not, is the actual Annabelle doll is a Raggedy Ann doll.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of known. After Daniela releases the demonic doll from its glassy prison, a little girl knocks on the Warrens' door and asks for Annabelle. Probably reminded you of the movie Strangers. Mary, who answered the door, has a confused look. Only the confused look that Mary gives her only makes the girl laugh, which the little girl's never seen again. The girl is none other than Annabelle B. Mullins, the girl that the doll was named after, following her sudden death in the prologue of Annabelle Creation. Samara Lee returns to reprise her role as the Mullins child, although she comes back in her possessed form instead of her charming one.
That's kind of debatable. I didn't find her all that charming.
Well, she's definitely not charming in this one.
True.
Equally memorable as the Annabelle doll is the fact that the doll in the movie isn't based on the real one. The Annabelle doll does exist, but it's a big, fluffy, Raggedy Ann doll that's cuter than the demonic version. In Annabelle Comes Home, Raggedy Ann is briefly seen in a game show where the host gives the doll to an excited girl. This isn't the first time Raggedy Ann shows up in the Conjuring movie, as she was seen near the end of Annabelle Creations when Janice's adopted parents gave her the iconic doll as an introductory gift. That's all I got.
So is doll horror making a comeback? Is that an observation about 2019?
I think it's fair to say.
Yeah. There you go.
That's it. Thank you for this podcast.
Yeah.
We're
So
out.
you talked a lot about that intro scene, which was kind of the one that had the Warrens in it the most. And it was really just like set up for the rest of the movie. But I liked it because it sort of like loosely defined the rules. Like we've talked a lot of times about how, especially with paranormal stuff, it's annoying when they try to like over explain what's going on, because it's just kind of a thing that sort of logically breaks down if you try to get it too narrow. But I thought they did a good job in this one by really tying it back into all of those other Conjuring movies and sort of establishing, like, continuing the terror and the feelings from those, but also kind of setting some like expectations around the fact that this doll is a lot more dangerous than you would think, because it can pull in all kinds of other spirits and you don't know like what their rules are. So I thought it was just kind of an interesting setup.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna have something in the Conjuring universe, it makes perfect sense to have it tied to the film, or have the pieces in place. If it didn't, then I think that's when like I would almost draw the line of like, okay, look, just because it has the doll in it, like,
right.
that doesn't tie it to the but that introductory part up until it gets to the where it has the font on the screen or whatever, the caption on the screen, I thought it was really interesting, and like I was real excited for it. It just seemed real creepy.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a new way of saying like this is based on a true story kind of thing.
Yeah.
Another way.
Yeah, and then it kind of, I felt like the tone of the movie really changed. Like it got a lot more like lighthearted after that.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
But again, I think that kind of goes along with a lot of these movies now. It feels like are being made with the idea that they have like a typical Hollywood audience as the target, as opposed to like hardcore horror fans.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that's happening a lot in current movies too, where they add the humor to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we've talked in a couple movies where they talked about the writer struggling with the humor that's added to the film, because it's supposed to be a horror, and but sometimes it's needed when you have a bunch of, which I'm not saying this one did, but I feel like it's needed when you have like some really intense scenes. It's a nice little break, and it also catches you off guard where you lay your guard down.
Yeah.
And you're open, you're laughing, and the next thing you know, something spooky pops out,
Well, I didn't laugh because I didn't find any of them charming, but you do you.
Yeah, I did.
I don't find anything charming without popcorn. So I did like how they used the sound in this movie. A few times it really stood out to me. One was where that whole scene where they first got the doll home and had the priest bless it, and then there was like the whole time there's this just gradual sort of growing, pulsing, staticky pad music in the background, and it's increasing in volume slowly, so you don't really process that it's happening until they put the doll in that like church glass cabinet, and then as soon as they shut it, it just completely cuts off and goes silent. And that was just such a cool use of sound, because it's like almost like you didn't realize that it was there, and then it just completely goes away and like grabs your attention in the moment. And I thought that was cool. Like that's one of those things that you can do to really like enhance the feeling of the scene, but it also didn't really like cost a lot.
Yeah, I feel like the way that they shot it along with the film, with the footage too, is definitely the Conjuring feel to it, as well as like Insidious, like a couple of those like James Wan styles, where like the one scene specifically where it's playing kind of creepy music, but it's going like it's shot on the school, very square shot, and it's kind of like zooming in, and it's like gray, like real kind of darker colors and stuff. Really sets the tone without having to say anything.
Yeah.
You know.
No, that's a great call out. I'm like 90% sure that James Wan was a co-producer on this one.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure he was too. Yeah. I mean, it's just yet again, we don't. I'm not the biggest fan of hand holding too long during movies, and I feel like one thing that you can do to prevent that is the way you film it and the music and stuff.
Yeah, you can like communicate a lot with the way you make the movie, so that you don't have to be as explicit with like the dialogue and stuff.
Yeah.
I also thought it was cool that this was a period piece. Like, it takes place in the 70s, and I really thought it was cool that they did all the products, like in the grocery store and the comic book covers and board game style. Like, they really stuck to that 70s style and the fashion and everything else.
Yeah, I think with, because I was kind of thinking about that too, and I was like, I wonder how accurate it is as far as like the age goes for them, and I think technically the Warren's daughter, whatever her name was, I'm going to say Joanne. Don't know if that's true. Judy. She would have been like in her 20s, technically.
What
Just for the record. During that time.
Oh, like for the actual Warren's daughter in the 70s was in her 20s.
Yeah. But it really makes me want to like I wish there was a place that had like houses in the 70s, like just decked out 70s only stuff and 60s only. That'd be cool to
like theme neighborhoods.
Yeah, check out.
I felt like this was a really different type of horror than The Nun.
Yeah.
Because The Nun was a lot more like action adventure or maybe survival. But this one, a lot of times, this one reminded me of The Haunting of Hill House, because there was so much going on in the background and people kind of appearing and disappearing and glasses moving across the table and stuff that the characters didn't really notice, but you did. So then you find yourself like almost watching the background of the scenes more than the actors in the scenes.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like. Like, I like that feeling in a movie.
Yeah, because it'll catch you off guard. You might be paying attention to the actors, and the next thing you know, you got some weird dude standing in the back, in the back corner.
Yep. So, but there was one similarity I noticed to The Nun. I feel like Bob was kind of the Frenchie in this one.
Here's the thing with Bob. I thought his name was Brad literally until 5 seconds before you said his name, and I saw it on IMDb that it's Bob. He was playing Bob. Yeah. And I was really bummed because I wanted to say B-Rad is rad, but now I got nothing for Bob.
Bob's got balls.
It's true. He saved Judy from the werewolf.
Yeah. But he was kind of like the outside comic relief with no real character development.
Yeah.
So I feel like I want to pay attention to other movies in the Conjuring series now and see if they like all have that now, like if that's just a thing, because it was, like you mentioned before, a relatively small cast.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's just kind of interesting to see if you've only got a few pieces, how do you use them?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to add that in there. I thought that would kind of be Daniela's role. Like, here's the thing. It kind of ties into like the people smoking cigarettes that you don't normally smoke. That don't normally smoke. It's kind of pet peeve, OCD part of my brain where it's like
they just look awkward.
Yeah, and I also don't like. It also bothers me of like the teenager that is way more mature than they should be. And I'm just kind of basing that off of like the conversation, how it went at the grocery store, where like both girls weren't giddy about a guy that one of them likes, and like she was just like real straightforward. I mean, she had a rough life. Her dad died, but it was just like, come on, let's act like kids, teenagers.
Yep.
And this is my lesson for all you kids out there: don't grow up too fast because it sucks.
That's so true.
So everyone wants to grow up fast. Don't grow up fast. What the hell?
Yeah.
Anyway, I get off topic. But what I slowly started to realize is that Danielle was actually fixing to stir some shit up.
She's a terrible person.
Yeah.
She is. So if you take out everything that had to do with the Warrens and like hauntings and supernatural stuff, just your babysitter bringing over a friend like that
Yeah.
is enough to make a horror movie for someone my age.
Right. Now, we'll say this, though. I think what I thought the funniest part of the film involved her when she got attacked. It was the fun, not really, but when she was trying to get into the room where Annabelle was at, and
Yep.
it was like, you know, she did her call, like, oh God, okay, I'm gonna have to do this, and she did like her, you know, whatever demon thing. Please let me open the door, and she tried, and it didn't work. And then there's just a couple of things that happened. I was like, that's actually pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
It's a fun take.
Yeah. She was in one of my favorite scenes, though. The one where she's sitting in front of that, like, spirit TV thing, and it's showing everything, like, a couple seconds before it happens. That whole sequence, I thought, was really... It just, the suspense in it was, like, so intense. Loved it. But, and then there was another scene where the babysitter, because I never wrote down her actual name, starts hearing noises from down the hall, and it's like that ferryman recording, and it keeps like skipping and replaying, and then the lights go out. That I thought was good.
Yeah.
But then, like, right after that, I think I've decided there may not be anything creepier than a camera following someone in the dark when they have a flashlight in front of them.
Yeah, man,
I love that.
It's
was
a very
so good. Yeah.
Right. It's something that's old, that's been in so many movies, but it works every time.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't understand why the power was off. I probably missed that part. But I was just like, yes, because that's when you're so vulnerable. You only have like 30% visibility as that person, putting yourself in their spot. You only have like that 30% visibility, so you got 70% that's fixing that could come at you.
Yeah, and especially if you have the lights off while you're watching the movie.
Yeah.
And the way sometimes they'll do where like the camera is not looking straight on, so you're getting even less of like the illumination than the character is, and you've already established that there's all kinds of like dangerous stuff in this house. And so I liked it. That was one of the more effective scenes in the movie for me.
For sure. I mean, that was the thing with this movie. I honestly didn't think it was bad. I don't know. Like, while watching it, I think I would consider this like a Halloween movie when you're like you know, during the month of October or like December, I like to watch holiday themed shows. So like this would be like one that you just throw on like October 11th, where it's just like a random day. But then you have like the trying to think of things with this movie, and it's like then I get to thinking more in depth about ghosts and stuff. And it's like, I don't understand why ghosts have to be bad. Like, I mean, what does it accomplish, you know?
Yeah.
Like, is it just like a evil spirit that's wanting to hurt people, I guess?
Well, I think that in this case, they were, what did they say? It was something along the lines of the spirit never wanted Annabelle, it wanted the girl. And so now apparently it's after the Warren's daughter because it wants like her soul or to inhabit her body or something. So I think that was supposed to be the motivation, but there were also all of the others that were just kind of hanging out. So
yeah, I think my idea came from like the beginning when Ed was trying to get his car fixed, and like all of them showed up. Like a whole bunch of spirits showed up at the cemetery. It's like, what?
Fair.
Where's the good ones at?
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I don't know. One of my complaints with this one was there were a lot of like random ghosts that never got any explanation. Yeah. Like the ghost priest guy that Judy saw at the school, like nothing ever really came of or followed that up. Like, why was that happening? And then, like you mentioned, all of the ghosts in the beginning that were coming out of the cemetery towards them. I don't know. And I felt like some of the jump scares were just like a little too predictable.
Yeah.
Like there weren't a lot of things where it really had me pulled in and then it did something scary and I was like, oh crap, I need to write that down. It was just like, yep, okay. She's walking down this hallway, something's about to happen, and then something happens. And
you know, it has to be this for me, but it might be that we're kind of immune to it now. Like
without popcorn,
but like also just the fact that that's a lot of modern movies, specifically in the like Conjuring, Insidious world. You have those jump scares, so like you have some movies that do it really well.
Yep.
But like newer movies are starting to do that more and more, and what they do in Conjuring and Insidious era is or universe is they really do it with, I think they do it with music. They try to confuse you with like some crazy staticky type music playing, like maybe like slowly, and then like a real sharp squeal sound, and then quiet when you see the jump happening. But I don't know, it's just kind of, it used to bother me, man. Like if you guys are listening and you go back, like it used to really kind of bother me, but now it's just like, oh well. It's kind of like one of those things where like, if you're gonna kill me, just kill me. Like I'm ready. You know what I mean?
Maybe there'll be popcorn in heaven.
Not my heaven.
But yeah, the only other note I really had was just around.
Sorry, man.
What I was talking about in the beginning. Like, I kind of wish there had been a little more development of the different demons, and I hope that maybe this movie leads to that, because there were a lot of like I mentioned, like that suit of samurai armor, and the way that it just was like hypnotizing her as she walked by. Like that was really cool. And there was the blue demon and stuff, and there were just a lot of things that I feel like this could be the start of, hopefully. And we'll see how the ferryman would be cool. So
yeah, I for sure, like, I want to see the samurai one. Like I need to see that one. I don't know if it'll be good or not, but I want to see it.
It'll be better if you do it with popcorn.
But I want to see that for sure. But yeah, I think it's interesting that they threw. I think it's a really smart call that they threw that in. I think that it has to go that direction where it starts showing some of the other stuff. But here's one thing I kind of feel like with the Conjuring series films. Like I feel like Ed and Lorraine Warren are like brought up a lot, but I feel like they don't have like a ton of screen time. And
in these sequels for sure, or like the non-main Conjuring movies, for sure.
It's like, but like Annabelle, like that's their thing, but it's just I don't know, and it's been a while since we watched them, but it's just like I feel like anytime I'm watching one, I feel like they're like what was the one that we watched where they're in England with that family? What was that one called? God, we just did it. Anyway, they weren't really involved with that one until like the end, kind of. And it's just like, oh man, I want to see some demonologist stuff. And also, it's like we know that this isn't gonna be perceived like a documentary. Like you're not telling 100% factual stories of like their situations, so might as well just like beef them up. Yeah, that's a good point. You might as well like get a little more screen time. Well, I mean, for the people everyone want to see. And one of the reasons why I like these movies is because of the Warrens. Like I like that idea, the couple, who do this, and like their characters aren't like super off-putting either. And you don't feel like they're, I don't know, just super aggressive or anything. They both seem like, they have, I don't know, but they're good characters. I just want to see like more. And I like the idea of period piece horrors, like it being in the 70s. Like that's badass, Yeah, it's something different for sure. Yeah. And, I like it when they do that. And that was one thing I was interested too with the samurai armor. They could do a, like feudal Japan type setting, and it's like the series obviously has the budget to do that type of thing and do it well now, and that could be really cool. Yeah. So, and then this movie ends with the song. Is it These Eyes? Is that what it plays? Yeah. And it's like, that's hilarious. Like that's so funny because it's playing off the guy puts coin on the eyes or whatever. Yeah. So maybe that's a nod to Ferryman will be the next movie. I bet it will, personally.
Anyway, you know that movie you said that we did recently that was in the universe that was in England?
Mm-hmm.
That movie was called The Conjuring 2.
What?
And we did that episode over a year ago.
Oh my god dang. Maybe Katie and I just watched it or something.
Yeah.
That was Conjuring 2,
old
huh?
like me. Yeah.
Well, it was still done in 2016. I mean, that's hilarious.
Our episode was
that's how
at the
much,
beginning of 2019.
I'm just saying, man. We've done like Conjuring 2. We've done the Nun. We, didn't we do like La Chicharona or something like that? Or are we going to do Curse of La Llorona?
Yeah, I think so. At some point.
Annabelle's. I mean, we've done a lot of these movies.
Oh yeah.
We're doing them a favor.
Yeah. Also, time doesn't really exist anymore because we're just in this perpetual coronavirus-induced loop of life.
That's very true. But, I mean, hey, I'm kind of going back and forth on this movie. If you like the Conjuring films, watch this one. It's literally right up your alley.
Yeah,
if you're not a fan of the Conjuring films, then don't watch this film.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
But also recommend us a film that you would watch instead.
Yeah. Like, I don't know that if you weren't interested in the Conjuring universe and you hadn't seen any of the other movies, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this as a place to start.
Don't start at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. At least this one didn't involve mental illness.
Yeah.
Unless you want to count Bob or myself thinking his name was B-Rad.
I was going to count Daniela because she was like a compulsive go through other people's stuff person. Can we stop here?
Yep.
But keep recording?
Yep.
Okay.
I was glad when she got stabbed.
Oh, dude, yeah. This was the most satisfying part of the movie. I cheered. I was like, this is better than having popcorn.
And then she was immediately fine, and you're like, ah, damn it.
Yeah, that's typical Hollywood movie. Like, yeah, everybody has to be okay in the end, even though it doesn't make sense. But yeah, so last night, I got really excited because on Amazon Prime Video, I found in the documentary section a movie called Demon House.
Okay.
You might ask yourself, what is the documentary about Demon House?
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the guys from like Travel Channel, like one of their ghost shows, and he did it. And I was like, oh. But then it was like he bought this house that was known as an especially haunted place in Gary, Indiana, that had this super long history of haunting reportings and stuff like that. So it starts off, and he goes there with his film crew, and he's like talking to the people that lived there before him, and he's talking to like the local police and some local like social workers who had been in and out of it and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting, because they all sound like legit terrified. And they have a lot of reenactments of scenes that are like shot like horror movies.
Yeah.
So even though you know it's not real, because they're like the real people are like telling the story or whatever, you get the feeling of this seems like legit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's going along, and then I don't know, maybe halfway through, it just converts to these random like overhead shots of one of his cameramen starting to act real weird, or him getting aggressive with somebody, but in like not a way that causes them any harm. And then it's just, and it's all like him narrating the way he felt and them narrating the way that they felt, and like wildly overacting and overselling it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes to, in the end, he like locks himself inside the place, but then it's just like him yelling and running around. And so to me, it became really, really not believable.
You're right.
Because and they had some stuff where they were like, oh yeah, well the reading on this meter is way higher than it should have been when you're near this place on the wall. And it's like, okay, well there's an exposed wire or something. I don't know. It started off with such promise, and then it crashed and burned so hard for me. And I was really excited. I was about to recommend it to you. I had recommended it to Sarah's sister, and then I had to like walk it back. I had to be like, oh, just kidding. It started off good, but it's fine. And I just feel like that's like life right now. Like everything I try to get excited about just lets me down.
And that's it for today's episode. If you've listened this far, then thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed it.
We're always looking for new ideas, so if you have any questions, comments, or movie suggestions, please send us an email at thehorrificpod@gmail.com, or feel free to comment on or message our Facebook page. Just search for The Horrific Podcast. Thanks for listening.
Speaking of bullshit, you want to get into this movie?
Yeah, let's do
it. I actually didn't hate it that much. That was just too good a transition to pass it.
Katie really liked it too.
Oh, good. Good. Are you going to start the recording?
Yeah, it's started.
Oh, well, how long have you been doing that?
14 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh, shoot.
I didn't want to stop it and then start it, so I just left it go.
Well, you're going to have to go back and edit out all that wildly inappropriate stuff I said.
I'm leaving it. I'm only putting that in.